Welcome back to Washington Football Maniacs. It is your co-host, Brandon Scott and Greg Sykes. Today we are going to talk about a couple of injuries on the special teams and defense that could be a little alarming for Sunday, and we're going to look at these next two games are very vital. So if they win one or maybe lose both, could Jack Del Rio be on the chopping block? But before we get into that, if you're not a member of the Washington Football Maniacs, definitely subscribe. Hit that notification button and when these videos come out. So definitely subscribe, comment below. Let us know what you guys think. So we're gonna dive right in, Greg. Before we get into the question of Jack Del Rio and what his future is in DC, looking at a few injuries real quick. Jamie Reeves, pretty much the captain of the special teams. He is out with a knee injury. He is out for Sunday. He was placed on the injury reserve. And Derek Forrest, opposite of Cam Curl. He has a shoulder injury. So, that is bad news for this, defense and special teams going into Sunday against a very vital game against Atlanta Falcons. But before I want your reaction with that. But I'm going to ask this question real quick. Looking at the performance of the defense, man, and just the fact that we've given up so many points. I mean, we've given up more points than most teams in the NFL. So Jack Del Rio, if you look at these next two games, the Atlanta Falcons and obviously the New York Giants, who look worse than we do, if that's possible. If we leave out of these next two games with one win or we lose both, could we very well see Jack Del Rio on the chopping block? But obviously, before that, what is your reaction to the injuries? But kind of two questions in one. But because really, if you think about it, here's the key: is that the injury to Derek Forrest is going to impact Jack Del Rio. He's got to kind of shift things around and see, kind of cog the hole as far as his defense. So, should Jack Del Rio be on the chopping block going forward?
Well, I tell you, I think Jack Del Rio should already be on the chopping block. I mean, honestly, we were talking about this in videos prior to the season, and even after that first game against the Cardinals. I mean, that defensive front looked unstoppable. Um, the defense just looked really good. And then all of a sudden after that, it was just, what in the world is going on? And ever since then, they have taken a nosedive. Not gotten pressure to any of the quarterbacks whatsoever. The secondary, the defensive front has talked about this is their best secondary that they have played with in the 4 years they've been in Washington. But it's not really turning out to look like that at all. I haven't seen it. I mean, I kind of touched on this a little bit in the live stream. The fact that we're still seeing big plays being given up. Yeah, provided that we've played against some really great wide receivers. But it doesn't change the fact we're still giving up some massive plays, some huge chunk plays. And, I don't know. You start looking at it. Ultimately, the buck stops with Jack Del Rio, right? And you start to look at, well, where's the breakdown at? Is it coaching? Is it the players just not getting it? We heard from opposing teams, players saying that these guys were constantly out of position, or they're slow to move into position. Is that a coaching thing? Is that a player thing not getting it? Is it a scheme thing? I don't know. I don't know if it's a scheme thing or not. I kind of had this argument of, guys like Jack Del Rio, they've had some success in the NFL. So it's not that their schemes don't work. But you got to execute the schemes to their fullest ability, right? So as a player, you got to be able to be in position. But at the same time, as a coach, you got to be able to get the best out of your players. You got to make sure that they get this stuff in their heads. And that all starts in training camp. And I'm not sure if the coaches are doing enough to get that into their heads. We've seen this in the last 4 years in the secondary. People being constantly out of position, having the big play, on them. Doesn't matter who's back there. And honestly, that to me looks more like it's on coaching than anything else. So, to answer your question, I would be worried if I'm Jack Del Rio because I don't think he's aggressive enough on defense. I think at this point, you're playing as far as what do I have to lose? You need to be aggressive. You're playing for your job. They may be saying that to the players, or they may not even be saying anything to the players at all. If you're Ron Rivera, you're letting the players talk, which I think is bad news, to be honest with you. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I just overall, I think that if we lose any of these next two games, Jack Del Rio should be in trouble. Now the question is Ron Rivera going to do something about it? He doesn't like to fire coaches. He did fire that one coach last year, but that was kind of, if I'm not mistaken, that was before the beginning of the season. So he doesn't usually like to fire guys midway through like that. So I don't know. He may let Jack Del Rio go down with the ship.
Yeah, where do I start with this, man? Um, we'll start with Ron Rivera real quick. You just made a statement that he doesn't like to fire. Here's what really bothers me. What has Ron Rivera done that gives him this much autonomy to make these decisions? I mean, he's not Joe Gibbs here. I mean, this guy at Carolina, he had a 15-1 record. And outside of that, what's he done? He comes to Washington. He had one good year in a pandemic year, and against practically backup quarterbacks, and he has all this power. First of all, he needs to step out of general manager's office. He's not a general manager, and you need to be a coach. If you look at schemes, schemes a big issue because look at William Jackson III last year, where he was supposed to be this big free agent acquisition, where it was the wrong scheme. You wasted our time, you wasted his time. It was a terrible signing. If you look at drafts, Jamie Davis, look, put an APB out on him as far as where he's at on a week-to-week basis, because one week he's nice, next week he's just a totally different player. It's just Ron Rivera has to stop this GM. No, go get a GM. But this whole, I'm gonna rock with my coaches. Del Rio should have got fired 2 years ago when you gave up a Hail Mary at halftime against Jameis Winston and the Saints. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, his schemes just are terrible. He's lost the defense. He lost last year, and he lost it the year before. I don't know why they keep bringing him back, because how many years is this secondary going to get smoked on a week-to-week basis? A.J. Brown made this secondary look like child's play. Let's be real. And you're going to step into Atlanta where Drake London is not. Is he a legit number one receiver? No. But Drake London is going to have a career day. I'm sorry. You got, Kyle Pitts. You got their tight ends, Jonnu Smith. I mean, the list goes on. They're running backs. I mean, it's a scary matchup. It really is, because Atlanta played us hard a couple years ago when we were still the Washington football team. And obviously, we were a Taylor Heineke's roll to the right away from losing then. It's just, it's really everything is all of above, man. It's schemes. It's the wrong personnel. Ron Rivera's just, he ain't it. And I think they really got to explore at the end of the season, bring another coach in here. Jack Del Rio needs to go. I'm sorry, he needs to go. It is just, how many times do you need to give a 30 plus? How many times? I mean, your job as a defensive coordinator, it's to defend. If you can't defend it, what are we doing, man? I mean, why hire a UPS driver who forgets a package every week? I mean, that's your job. He needs to go. He needs to go, because I'm a little scared of this matchup against the Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to play very well against us. I think it's going to send shockwaves to this organization, because, yeah, on one hand, Josh Harris wants to be this, take this wait and see. But look, Magic Johnson, look, he's about results. And even in Josh Harris, if you look at his process with the New Jersey Devils, the Philadelphia 76ers, look, he's got organizations that compete at the highest level. The 76ers are always up there in the Eastern Conference of the NBA as one of those teams. And there's New Jersey Devils, they're a powerhouse. So, and Magic Johnson, we know what his track record is, as far as a player and exec with the Lakers, the LA Dodgers, the list goes on. They're not going to deal with mediocrity, man. They're just not. Ron Rivera, here's the thing with a player's coach. It's all good and well when it works, but it's not working. You have to you got to be that voice in the locker room. You cannot let the players run the locker room. You have to be the coach. You got to dig in some butts, man. Jack Del Rio, to his credit, the last game against the Bears, because I was there for that game, man. He dug in some butt. He got into him, but then they didn't respond. So what's that tell you? He lost them. Ron Rivera lost the locker room. This experiment needs to stop. This is another piece of the Dan Snyder era that needs to go. He needs to go. I'm sorry, I don't see what the future is for Ron Rivera past this year. I just don't see it because this defense is trash. I mean, this front four, yeah, okay, this D line. Let me say this, man. I'm really sick and tired of hearing about this miraculous front four we got. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're good, what, every once in a while, but they were terrible last week against the Chicago Bears team, which they're terrible. I mean, we can get on the O line, which is a whole nother conversation. But the D line is just, I'm tired of this whole, oh, they got potential. They're going to do something. When? Last year we were talking about, oh, we're going to set records. What records did you set? I mean, Chase Young's trying to get back, but he's looked solid, yes. But can he be consistent? Sweat, can he be consistent? Payne and Allen. Allen needs to stop these rah-rah, the fans showing up. Fans are showing up. They sold out 3 straight games, man, at home. You need to show up. I mean, this is tiring, man. This whole, you fair weather fan. You're a fair weather player. You don't show up from week to week. I mean, it's frustrating because now I get tired of this. Oh, we're gonna wait. What are we waiting for, man? The list goes. We gotta start paying people. But Chase, what do you do with Chase? Do you pay Sweat? If you look at the draft, there's hits and misses. Jahan Dotson to me was a good pickup. I think that the trade for Chris Olave, pretty much getting Cole Turner, Brian Robinson, that was a really good trade. But then Jamin Davis, what are we doing? Like, he's lost, man. He was projected to be a second-round pick. Emmanuel Forbes, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I wanted Christian Gonzalez. I want him now. He's polished. He's ready to play. Emmanuel Forbes, we talked about it a lot, Greg, going into the season, man. He's too skinny. He can't tackle. He is, he's out there talking junk and he get burnt. I mean, and I get it, man. Nobody deserves to get death threats and all this about play on the field. I think that's kind of cartoonish, on the part of some fans. But do your job. He clearly is a second and third round pick. I mean, the first round pick on a guy, and this is what Jamie Davis and Emmanuel Ford, the 2 guys who we wasted first round picks on, when there's clearly talent there. And it was just puzzling draft night. And I hate to I'm on my high horse a little bit, but it's frustrating because Ron Rivera always makes these like questionable moves. Like, Christian Gonzalez was right there. What are we doing? So you get Emmanuel Forbes, who's like 170 pounds. It's football. I mean, what's 170 pounds going to do against a running back the size of Derrick Henry, man? I don't get it. It needs to stop. New head coach, new defensive coordinator. Even do we promote EB? See what he can do at the head coaching position? I mean, I think maybe that's worth a look. But again, why would Eric Bieniemy want to hitch his wagon to this organization when this is the product that he has? He wants to get a head coaching position. Why would he tie himself to a team that, yeah, we have new ownership, but it's at the coaching level and at the player level, you have mismatches, spare parts, and people that really have no idea what they're trying to do, and we're being loyal. The most loyal part of this organization is the fan base, who continue to show up, who continue to support this team, who continue to hear all these excuses from Ron Rivera about, oh, I'm gonna hold on to him. Hold on to him for what, man? Ron Rivera, end of the year, needs to go. And Jack Del Rio, he's got to go. He's lost the defense, and quite frankly, he's not a good defensive coordinator right now, man. I don't know if he ever has been. I mean, the last 3 years has been unwatchable on the defensive end. So I'm gonna step off my high horse real quick and let you have it, man.
No, I appreciate what what you're saying because it's funny how one game really, and I know it's not just one game because we've had a 3-game slide now, but really one game that was inexcusable has completely changed our whole outlook on this franchise. But I think more or less it's really exposed what was already there, and maybe we just didn't want to see it. But I think deep down inside we knew this is not really the coaching staff that's going to lead this team to another set of glory years, right? This is a coaching staff that maybe did a few good things as far as at least getting the team out of some sort of embarrassing mode, although you can't get much more embarrassing than having an 0-4 team hanging 40 on you in your own house. That's pretty embarrassing, right? Um, but yeah, you look at the whole body of work with guys like Jack Del Rio, and yeah, I mean, his defense is ranked pretty good last year, but overall, I think a lot of that really was because that the offense changed their philosophy, right? The offense went to a more ball controlled style of offense. They kept the other offenses off the field. And so the defense wasn't really put into bad situations a lot. And now you don't have that as much with Eric Bieniemy. He's not calling a ball controlled offense right now. He's calling a very pass happy type of offense because, well, when you're down by 18 points, when you're down by 23 points, you have to. And so that puts the defense in pressure situations as well. And the defense can't seem to respond. They come out flat. And it's what, Magic Johnson had posted. And I said this morning, I was like, I don't know, you can't really call it tweet it. I guess you could call it he X'd it. That the team came out with no fire. And I go back to this. Why is the team coming out with no fire? Well, that's coaching. The coaching can't get your players up and ready and fired up. There's something wrong with you. Don't have the right coaches there. And I'll always admire Ron Rivera as a man. He was a great ball player in his day. He's a great military man, but in terms of a coach, he's not the right coach for us. He looks like he's checked out. Pat McAfee mentioned that on his show. Just looks like Ron Rivera's checked out, and I think he is. Especially when he's getting his players to be like, y'all pump yourselves up. I'm going to go over here in the corner and sit down and sulk. He looks lost out there. He really does. Jack Del Rio just looks, he just looks like he doesn't know what he's doing either. And this coaching staff, honestly, I don't know. I don't have any confidence that this team is going to come out with any fire against any of these teams. Yeah, I don't see them losing the rest of their games per se, but do I think that it would be impossible for them to lose against Atlanta or the New York Giants? I don't think it's impossible at all the way they're playing. And you'd have to play pretty bad to lose against the Giants right now because the Giants, they're in turmoil. They are horrible right now. But they're not any worse than what, honestly, I think than what Washington's playing with right now. But I'll say this and move on with the coaching. I really like Eric Bieniemy, but I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be the situation he wants to have next year. I think we've got some really solid, skilled players on the offensive side. So I'd hate for someone else to come in and tear all that up, per se. But I'm also not trying to be one of those loyal at fault fans. I'm not trying to be like that. Like, why did you get rid of Alfred Morris? I hated that when he went to Dallas. But we finally found what I think is a pretty good quarterback. I will say that was a good move. I think Sam Howell is a solid quarterback. I think we found a good quarterback. We've got a good backfield. We got great wide receivers. So there's a lot for Eric Bieniemy to work with. but do the players want Eric Bieniemy? I think a coaching style that Eric Bieniemy brings is what this team needs. But they need some fire under their butts. So, but at the same time, I'm like everybody else. I want the up and coming young coaching staff, the whole staff, not just the head coach, the whole coaching staff. Coaching staff that's going to gel and grow together, that's going to build championships, that's going to be aggressive, that's going to think outside of the box, that's going to know how to utilize the talent that they have. Because we've got the talent on the team. There's no reason why that this team cannot easily win 10 games per season. So we have the talent. Yes, we need to up the talent on the offensive line. And, the secondary needs to figure out what they're going to do. But other than that, we've got the talent. We need the coaching. But I guess, I'll go ahead and segue into speaking of the players, because we can go on for 3 or 4 hours about this coaching staff. Jeremy Reeves going down, that he is the captain of that specials teams, and that's going to hurt special teams. I know that a lot of people think of special teams as an afterthought. Jeremy Reeves is a great player on special teams. It's going to hurt. I just hope that knee injury, he's the one with the knee injury, right? I just hope that it's not that serious. Anytime I hear about knees, I get very weak. So, we're not going to have him. And then Derek Force, that one really hurts because their secondary needs all the help that they can possibly get. And guys like Derek Force, I tell you, he really quickly became one of my favorites, next to Cam Curl in the last couple of years. And so not having him in that secondary is going to really hurt. A secondary that's already reeling right now with bad performance and now starting to have injuries set in. You're going to have to kind of play some guys who have underperformed and try to find a good rotation that's going to stick. Maybe you get some of these corners and you rotate them into a safety position to try to see what kind of sticks while Force is out. But that's just going to be, I think, bad news for our secondary. The hope is, Brandon, that our front four will get on fire and put so much pressure on the quarterback that will take the pressure off of our back end, off of our secondary, and won't hurt us as much. But I'll believe it when I see it, man. I just think right now our defense, which was supposed to be the strongest point of this team, is honestly the weakest point of our team. And that spells very bad news for this year. Definitely bad news for this, this coaching staff. This coaching staff will not be here next year, folks. We can already say that. I don't care if we do go on another Mickey Mouse run of like 7 or 8 wins. They're not going to be here next year because I don't even think that's going to help to get into the playoffs. And honestly, do we want to get into the playoffs and be one and done? I'm kind of done with seeing that. I just want to see a solid team that is a powerhouse team that wins consistently year in, year out, that is always in the mix, that's going to finally get a chance to bid for a championship. And they're going to have to constantly fight against teams every single year like the Eagles, apparently, for a while. So I want to see our team like that. We're going to have to make some wholesale changes, and it's going to start in the front office. That's where Josh Harris is going to have to start.
Yeah, I agree on all points, man. I agree on all points. I'll say this before we roll, man. We have got to stop shopping for head coaches in a $5 DVD bargain bin at Walmart. Stop it. I mean, again, I'm going to the point I made before. What did he do in Carolina? What did he do outside of 1 15-1 year? And then, you look at it. All right, look at how many head coaches came out of his organization. Kyle Shanahan, look at what he's doing in San Francisco. McVay, look at what he's doing in LA. LaFleur, Green Bay. The list goes on, man. We have talented coaches who move on to other places. I mean, there's three guys right there who legitly have led organizations to success. And we got Ron Rivera. And I get it. Ron Rivera, he's a player's coach, the military background. Look, of all people, I dig that. But look, the military, look, ain't nobody whispering to nobody. I mean, look, infantry school, I was getting yelled at, man. Like, you getting screamed at. It's none of this, oh, please show up. It's like, no, you got to do your job. Stop it. Go out there and get a big name coach. Sean Payton was realistic. The prospective owner said, look, we want Sean Payton. What's the problem? Go get a head coach, man, that is reputable, who has some success in the playoffs, if not championship pedigree. I mean, what are we doing? Detroit, they got themselves a coach. Dan Campbell's a coach. Can you imagine Dan Campbell on this team? Totally different team. Totally different team. You need somebody who's going to get in the faces of some of these players and say, look, do your job. I'm going to find somebody who's going to do your job. You get paid millions of dollars to do a job. Do it. This whole thing about missing tackles, I swear to God, man, if I see Jamin Davis miss one more tackle, I mean, just do your job. It's frustrating because year in and year out, we still stuck with Del Rio. Now, I'm actually a fan of Del Rio to a certain degree. He lost them. The defense is giving up. You mentioned it earlier, man. You don't come out for a Thursday night game with fire against a winless daggone team. You fall flat in your face against a team which, quite frankly, is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, watchable team in the NFL outside of the Giants. Terrible. The Bears were trash. We made DJ Moore look like Randy Moss. I mean, he was wide open. I mean, the defense was clueless. No communication on the defense. None of that. And yeah, Derek Force is a hit. But then, I mean, he's suspect as far as coverage, too. Like, he hits hard. But, I mean, he gets caught sleeping, too. Jeremy Reeves, to me, out of the two injuries, is the biggest injury because special teams, he's the captain. So, no, you lost your captain on special teams. And I agree with you. Special teams doesn't get the love that it deserves because it's still, of all the phases of the game, it's very important. As far, especially as far as where you set up with, field position. So, I think that you're very on point with that. So, before we roll, man, it's just I had to get off my chest, man, because it's frustrating. I'm done with Ron Rivera. He needs to go. It's time for a new era, man. We got new ownership. We need new coaching. Del Rio, we'll see. Look, Atlanta is no joke, man. I was looking at, Jono Smith, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I mean, the running back room is you got two legit number one backs, man, that are going to test his line. And if you look statistical wise on his defense, we are a very suspect defense. So, we'll see, man. I am a very loyal fan. And I've been a fan of this organization since I came out the womb. But I'm gonna tell you what, man. I bet on it, man. I'm betting on Falcons winning this game, and I know we're gonna do a preview, so definitely tune in for that. But I don't know if this is a winnable game because Atlanta's got some fire to him, man. Their quarterback, Ritter he's ready to show the league what he can do, and we're just not operating at full capacity right now. Our head is not in the game. You come out flat on Thursday night against the Bears. That was one of the most embarrassing losses I've seen for this organization, and I'm just going to end it there. Before we roll out for the night, man, do you have anything else you want to cover real quick, man?
Not really. Just to say that we didn't really do a studs and duds together, but I kind of did one in one of the live streams, and I said, honestly, it was so hard trying to come up with studs, but the number one studs that I could really come up with were the fans who showed up. They have been the number one studs this year. I'm proud of the fans, coming out and supporting the Commanders. And I don't blame them if we start seeing some more empty seats as the year progresses. But if there's any word of encouragement that I can give all of us fans, it's this: hold on. We're no longer in the Dan Snyder phase. That time is done. There's going to be some brighter days ahead. We're going to have to try to grin and bear through this. This is the last of the Dan Snyder, and I think that we are going to see a brand new franchise on the horizon. So just be patient, folks. It's coming. Despite what we're seeing right now. I do honestly believe there's something different about this franchise. There's hope for this franchise. We see it in ownership. I think we're going to see it in the front office because we'll have a brand new front office. We're going to see it in the coaching staff. We're going to see it in the players. Just be patient, folks. The Snyder curse is off. We just got to get rid of the rest of the bad juju, and we're going to be there. Just be patient and watch these videos. That's really what I want to say.
Hey man, wise words spoken. I totally agree. Patience, man, because this ownership will get us where we need to be. So, hey, Greg already said it. Notification button. It lets you guys know when these videos come out because we're going to push a lot of good content this season and more and beyond. So definitely tune in, subscribe. Definitely subscribe. Subscribe. I'm telling you, a lot of people that watch these videos are not subscribed. So definitely, if you really want to get a lot of good content, definitely subscribe to this channel because it is still growing. So comment below. Let us know what you guys think. How much rope does Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera get this season? Should it be fired at the end of the year? Should it be fired within the next 2 to 3 weeks? Definitely let us know. So again, appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody watching the video. Definitely tune in next time because Friday we will be dropping a preview for this Sunday's game against the Atlanta Falcons. So again, appreciate everybody. Hail to the Commanders and peace. See you guys next time.